Hey. Well, welcome to episode 233 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman. I'm really excited for today's episode. Let me start with a quote by Simon Sinek, the leadership expert and author of many great books. He says, dream big, start small, but most of all, start. Dream big, start small, but most of all, start. Dream big, start small, but most of all, start. I love this quote because it reminds me of my life. 15 or 20 years ago, I was in a place where I was just kind of existing. I was doing good work. I had a good job. Things were going fine, but still there was something missing, and something that was boring about my routine, kind of tedious, which probably means the same thing as boring. But can any of you relate to that feeling? My guest today has a lot to say about that feeling and how to start taking steps to move through that feeling and beyond that. I'll tell you a bit more about her. Excuse me, but first this.
Today's guest, Carol Spader.
Welcome back. Carol Spader is a certified dream manager. Yes, you heard that right. She's a certified dream manager. Carol thrives on coaching people, many of whom are gainfully employed, to go after their dreams in tandem with current schedules instead of resisting their dreams and putting them off until someday. Carol believes that going after our dreams and our sense of purpose isn't merely icing on the cake. Is essential to our very well-being. As a certified dream manager, she holistically guides people as they actively create their dreams. Talking to Carol, I'm reminded that dreams aren't always dreaming and magic. They are work. They take practice. There's a process involved. There are obstacles. There's frustration. There's challenges. There's everything that comes with living life. Please help me welcome Carol Spader. Yay! Welcome, Carol.
Hello, Jason. I'm feel honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. Speaking of dreams, if I had asked you as a 7, 8, or 9-year-old, Carol, what's your big dream for your life? What would you have said?
I would have said something along the career lines because I believed at that point in my life that if I could go after some big career dream, then I would be happy and successful. And I suppose if you'd asked me that about that time, it would have been probably working in businesses, in an organizational psychologist, I think.
Why was success in the business realm so important to you?
Well, my father, when I was born, or shortly after I was born, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. he was an aircraft mechanic, and he was a rising star. He was kind of sought after to go to work for a man called Joe Foss in Sioux
Oh my
Falls. And
gosh.
yeah, Joe
For
Foss.
people living in Sioux Falls, you might know the name Joe Foss. For everyone else, could you briefly tell us who Joe Foss was?
I'm probably not going to do justice to his history much. I just know he was a war hero, well known. He was a fighter pilot, well known for his skills, I believe. There's a statue of him in the Sioux Falls airport, by the way, so you can read more about him there. But he was looked up to in this community, and highly respected. And he sought my dad out on a street corner one time and said, "I want you to come to work for me. I've heard a lot about you." And so that was that. My dad went to work for him. He was a rising star. He had people skills, was a good leader. All that came tumbling down pretty quickly. He was on a fast track to success, and then was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's disease, kind of like Michael J. Fox, if he followed his battle with Parkinson's. So that would have been, my dad was 31 years old.
31 years old.
Yeah.
Talk about like a shock to be on a train to exactly where you want to go and suddenly get a life-altering diagnosis.
Exactly. Yeah, I think for both he and my mother, that was their dream, that he was, going to be a rising star, have a successful career, and all the things that come with that. And they had 4 children, me being the youngest. But that all kind of came crashing down, and that was the death of a dream right there. So I was pretty young. I don't remember him pursuing that dream a whole lot. I remember him being home all day long, and he just kind of getting progressively worse. His disease was progressing pretty fast, and by the time I was 16, he had passed away from complications of that. So I think I probably got the message. I was a high achiever. I've always kind of been that way, and I think I probably got the message that that's what you do for happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction. That's the dream. You go and you get a good job and you make money, and that money can buy you things, and the American dream, right?
Did you get that quote unquote good job?
I did several good jobs, but none of them were quite a fit for me. Never brought me success, fulfillment, and satisfaction. I just kept on driving, and I would go to one job after another. And I don't want to make it sound like I was a job hopper. I would stay for maybe 2 or 3 years and kind of figure out, like, I'm stuck or something's wrong. This just isn't quite right. So I'd go try something else. And that wasn't quite right either. And I think I even did that with relationships too, always kind of searching for success and fulfillment. And then it was getting married, and then it was having children, and buying a house. Again, all those things that we consider to be the American dream, and they're not bad, they're good things. It's just they don't always bring fulfillment.
How did you start to make sense of it when you're like, Carol, wow, you're checking all the boxes here. I'm you talking to yourself, I guess. But when you were like, wow, I'm checking all the boxes here, but it's not giving me the feeling of joy that I want.
Right. Well, that took me a long time to kind of figure out. And it was a process of just kind of slowing down, like, you've got to figure out why, as a high achiever, you've got to figure out why nothing ever seems to be enough for you. What is it? And it was the process of just slowing down, finally being tired of going from thing to thing, and it never completely filling my cup. And I didn't really know why. So it was about in 2011 where I had made several attempts before that, but was always distracted with, the things of life, raising kids and so on. But it was probably about in 2011 where I really sat down and was like, I'm going to figure this out once and for all.
So what did the process look like when you finally sat down?
Well, you're going to think this is silly, but I started with Oprah magazine. There was an article in an Oprah magazine. I thought, okay, well, you got to start somewhere. So it was an exercise that you did about finding your passion. What are you passionate about? And I was kind of following the process, and lo and behold, things kind of started to connect for me. They were interests, some of them career interests, things that I had kind of brushed aside because I thought that they were not things where I could climb the corporate ladder. They were not job positions that made a whole lot of money. But I started to realize that this is the way I'm wired. And if I would just quit trying to be something I'm not, if I could just lean into how God wired me, that could be magic. So that's what I started to do.
If I could just lean into how God wired me, that could be magic. That's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So then once you realized that, was it just like easy street from there on out, and you just started doing something new and you made a whole bunch of money at once and yippee?
I wish. No, it was more of a journey, and it still is, but it's getting easier. I just kind of started following my heart. I started to think about things that, the deep desires of my heart, things that motivated me, things maybe I had done in the past that I really, really enjoyed, pieces of jobs maybe that really motivated me. And I just kind of started to lean into that. For example, I wrote a grant. I went to a company, and at that point I wanted to do more wellness kind of things. So I wrote a grant and I said, look, if you'll just let me come in and do this, you don't even have to pay me. Let me come in and provide some wellness opportunities for your employees. And they're like, well, great. We're a small company. We can't afford it. But if we get a grant, and I wrote a grant 2 times and got some funding to go in and do that. So I did that for about 10 years. And I grew through that process, but I quickly discovered that, again, as much as I liked it, it was the same people, it was the same employees that would participate all the time in wellness challenges and, whatever it was that we had going on. And I thought, I want to find a way to flip the switch for people. What really motivates people? What helps them want to change? I want to do more than just work on physical health and wellness. And then I came across something called the Dream Manager. And the more I got familiar with it, I thought, wow. You start talking about what people really want. It's their why behind making any kind of change. That's what trips the trigger on motivation. It's called intrinsic motivation.
So intrinsic motivation is a big deal. I talk to a lot of people who just they would love to feel more energy towards life and towards their work and towards everything, but they just feel bored. They lack energy. So how does one start getting intrinsic motivation when they feel so blah?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go back to my own experience, and perhaps some people can relate to this. As a high achiever, I was, again, always trying to find that thing that lit me up. And when I discovered Dream Manager, there's a phrase that's called essential purpose.
Essential
Basic
purpose.
essential purpose, yes. And basically, what that means is your purpose on this earth is to become your best version. So, your best version physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and financially. And to me, that was a stake in the ground moment. I remember thinking, you mean that's all I have to do? That's it? And the answer was like, yeah, that's where you start. And so you can kind of hear a bit of wellness in there. And I think that's why it appealed to me. Being your best version begins with the basics.
Being
And
your
often,
best version begins with the basics.
yeah.
Carol, I'm curious, like, say someone has a financial concern, like they need to make more money to pay their bills, to take the family on a trip, what have you. Like, why attend to the intellectual, the physical, the spiritual? Why not just figure out how to make more money and do that?
That's a great question. Because again, all of those pieces and parts, as human beings, we have a physical side, we have an emotional side. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
A spiritual side, an intellectual. We have these needs as human beings that need to be fulfilled. And when we do fulfill them and we figure out what that rhythm looks like for us on a daily basis, our energy level starts to go up. And when your energy level goes up, it goes up emotionally, mentally. You just have more energy for everything. Your thinking gets better. You're able to use your best thinking. You're able to get more creative about solving problems, be they around money, relationships, and you just have more energy, I believe, to hang in there and to carry out a plan to get you from point A to point B. Are you with me?
I'm with you. What would you say to someone listening who hears this and goes, "Hey, Cal, that's overwhelming. Like I barely have the energy to do one thing. You want me to make progress in all these domains at once? How do I even start to do that?"
I have several clients who are, I would say, in survival mode.
Mm.
Not all of my clients, but some, because they're going through some pretty heavy issues in their life, be it, job changes, not being happy with the job and not knowing what to do, but they feel very stuck. And what I always talk about is let's just talk about baby steps. And let's really try to drill down to maybe just one area. Okay, let's take a look at the emotional area in your life. What do you want? How are your relationships? What are you wanting? Is there just one relationship? And then we break it down even further. What's a baby step that you might take? We identify, okay, where are you now? That's point A. Where do you want to get to? That's point B. What do you think is a baby step in the next month that you could take that would help you make progress? And maybe not get to B, but I always talk to people about quick wins, because that's what helps us stay motivated. We need a quick win. What is that?
I before in my life, I can resonate because I've been like, I need to accomplish this big thing to feel like I'm winning in this area, and it just quickly becomes very overwhelming. So, can you say more about what a quick win is, or how do we create quick wins? How do we create the possibility of having more quick wins? It's fun to say even quick wins, quick wins.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? So an example of a quick win might be if I want to build my, let's say, I want to build my net worth. I want to be financially free in 10 years. That seems really big.
Yeah,
It's a big dream.
Huge.
It's a long-term dream. But if we bring it to the present and we kind of talk about, okay, let's break it down into baby steps, because we know how compound interest works. It's not rocket science, but if you're getting 1% better every day, and you keep doing that, you're building compound interest towards that long-term dream or that long-term life goal. So maybe it requires you to sit down and make a budget. That's a baby step. Maybe that's a quick win. In the next month, can you start to put together a budget? Because a lot of people don't have budgets. Another one might be, can you start to pay off a credit card and avoid some high interest rates? Can you start to save money and have a disaster fund, or start contributing to a disaster fund? So if something, your car breaks down or something, you have that margin to back you up. Does that help?
Yeah, it does a lot. And then how do you get people to attend to the other areas, the physical, the emotional, the intellectual at the same time?
I love that question because I used to be a wellness manager. I always felt like when I was working with employees that there were prescribed things, oh, you should eat like this and you should do this much exercise. And if you do this, you'll be fine. And the thing I love about Dream Manager is I'm asking people all the time, what does it look like for you? We know some best practices, for example, physically, that, we should be exercising 3 times a week, at least 3 times a week, 150 minutes. Okay. We know it's probably best for us to eat a Mediterranean diet, but I want to know, what do you think helps you be your best version physically? Let's talk about it. And some people might just be starting at a very low level there, but we're like, okay, let's try. If you think going out for a walk once a week, that might help you feel better physically. That might help you be your best version. Let's give it a try. Do that for the next month. Let's get a quick win. Come back and let's see how you feel. And we'll build on that.
And so when they come back having 4 walks in a month versus no walks the month before, that's a huge win.
It is, and it seems like a small thing, but As human beings, there's something called the wheel of momentum. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's kind of like a flywheel, if you know what that is. I used to work at a manufacturing company, and they had a flywheel, and basically what it is it's a big, heavy piece of machinery. It's like a cog in a machine, and it turns very, very slowly at first. And I'm talking about without any kind of power, without any electricity. It starts to turn very slowly at first, and then it starts to pick up momentum, and then pretty soon it's turning by itself because of gravity. And I think as human beings, we tend to be the same way. We pick up maybe just a little bit of the momentum. Let's say we have this dream, and we pick up just a little bit of momentum by getting a quick win or taking one baby step forward. That creates momentum. It builds confidence. And now we come back and circle around, and our dreams get a little bit bigger each time. And so it's not a fast process. It's more of a journey.
How do you help clients when they get impatient with the process, when they go, Carol, I don't want quick wins, I want quick dream realization?
I love your questions. They're just they're so realistic. Okay, let's say that somebody wants to be a pro football player. And, they want that today. And we do talk about reality. So again, that's a big dream. You're a pro football player, but you've never played football before. Okay, well, let's break it down. Could you perhaps start with version 1.0? And what would that look like? Because being a pro football player, if you've never played football before, that would be like version, I don't know, 9.0, 15.0, whatever.
Yeah.
Is there some version, though, of that dream that would be like a 1.0 that could help your heart sing, if that is your deepest desire? And what would that look like? Maybe it's coaching your child's football team.
So that would get the person involved in football and involved in helping others to play football.
Yeah, we try to get creative.
Sometimes I've fallen into the trap, actually many times in the past, of thinking I don't want to do version 1.0 or 2.0 or 3.0. I want to wait and not do something until I can come out one day and do it perfectly and beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
But does that work?
I don't think there's anything about this business of dreaming, reaching goals, life goals, whatever you want to call them, there isn't a magic bullet. I'm sorry to tell anybody that, but I don't think there's a magic bullet. It requires intentionality. It requires, I think, getting really clear about what you want and why. Why is that important to you? And again, I think we have to go back to reality. If you want that full-blown version, realize that it's going to take some time. I mean, you can look at people who strive for excellence in their lives. They all follow a very distinct pattern. If you were to study successful people, and it's not overnight. And it begins with, for most of them, it's a pattern of self-awareness is the first step. And that takes time.
When you say self-awareness, what do you mean?
Kind of doing the work of really sitting down like I did when I talked about going back to 2011, sitting down and really getting serious about, okay, I seem to be stuck here. I seem to be stuck over and over again. Am I tired enough of this? Yes. Okay.
Mm.
Sit down and figure out and try to get some clarity about what is it that I want now and in my future. What is it that I want that to look like? And perhaps I want to break it down into categories. What is it that I want in my relationships? What do I want that to look like? Am I happy with the way things are now? If not, what is it that I want? Am I happy with my financial situation? If not, what does that look like? Am I happy with my physical state of being? Am I happy with what I'm learning and how I'm growing? Am I happy with my spirituality? Do I feel at peace? Do I have a sense of purpose? And so that's what I mean by self-awareness. It's really getting clarity on what you want. What's your objective?
So we can almost start by becoming curious and asking ourselves questions. Then the first one you asked, I thought it was profound. Am I tired enough with the way things are to want to change?
Yeah, and sometimes it takes that to flip that trigger of intrinsic motivation. Are things bad enough? Am I uncomfortable enough where I want something different?
That makes
But,
so much. That makes so much sense. Sorry,
I don't want to
What
make
were
any
you
of it. I don't want to make any of that sound easy or to minimize it, because I know it's not. I've been there myself in that precipice of, okay, I'm scared. I want to change. I'm stuck. I want to change and I want to step out of this, but I'm really scared. And I don't know that I have the courage. And furthermore, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. But without action, there is no momentum.
Without action, there is no momentum.
Mm-mm.
I think now will be a good time. Please read that quote I asked you to read.
Okay. It says, love is your task. To love yourself by striving to become the best version of yourself, to love others by encouraging them and assisting them in their quest to become the best version of themselves, and to love God by becoming all you were created to be. I love that quote.
What about it brings joy to you?
That quote encapsulates my why for doing what I do. Again, it goes back to that essential purpose, which is what was a real stake in the ground for me to realize that's all I have to do. My time on this earth is to strive to be my best version so that I can help other people be their best version.
That's all. That simple makes it pretty simple, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And for someone striving for so many years, trying to figure out what my purpose was, that's why I say it was a stake in the ground for me. It was just like, wow, this is just way too simple. But oftentimes the simplest things in life are, the truest. So, and then on top of that, I think once you get that essential purpose idea down of becoming your best version, figuring out what that looks like for you, then the dreams start to flow.
The dreams start to flow.
Mm-hmm.
When your clients' dreams start to flow, do the dreams often look exactly like they imagined they would look, or do they look somewhat different?
People will start out with, it's interesting, they'll start out with materialistic dreams, which is fine. Sometimes we have those, and they'll think that they want one thing. I can think of one person, they wanted a home down south in Florida, and so they purchased that and started living down there, and decided that that's not at all what they wanted. What they really wanted was that feeling of having a vacation. It was more of a feeling. It was a feeling of having a vacation home to go to, but it wasn't necessarily living in Florida. It could have been anywhere. So I hope that makes sense. But dreams will often kind of emerge, and they'll kind of morph into something else. And it does take a little bit of uncovering them. So yeah, sometimes they end up completely differently than what you think they're going to be, because you get clarity in the process about, oh, well, I guess I wanted this, but I thought I wanted this.
The process of decoding the dream sounds really valuable, because it takes a lot of time and money to buy a vacation home in Florida if that's not the thing you're actually questing at. If that's not the thing that's actually going to lead to feeling fulfilled.
I agree. that would be a big expense to learn. It'd be a learning experience and an expensive one, but how often do we do those kind of things though? And often that's part of the learning experience. You'll take a job, or I did, you take a job and stake your career on it, and then you figure out in 2 to 3 years that this is not really what I wanted to do.
And you're not saying that's a bad experience. You're saying that's a learning experience.
It's a learning experience, yes.
I'm also fascinated beyond work. You were a runner. You ran a lot at one point. What did you love about being a runner?
Oh, there's so many things. I think it is just the sense of freedom, in my body. It was almost like dancing to me. The rhythm of it, the opportunity to think while I was running. And then I enjoyed entering road races. I loved 10Ks, 5Ks, and was winning in my age category, although there weren't a whole lot of people to compete against either in my age category. But I love the atmosphere of those road races and people coming together and doing positive things. And again, I guess it goes back to that wheel of momentum I talked about. People going out and figuring out, I can run a 5K. Might have been their first 5K, and they figure out like, wow, if I can do that, maybe I can run a little bit further. So here again, we have that wheel of momentum I talked about earlier. You try something, you gain a little bit of confidence, your dreams get bigger.
So about how many road races did you run, do you think?
Oh, wow. I only did a half marathon once. Figured out that I like 10Ks better. I bet maybe I did 10 of them in my running career. Not a lot. A few.
So you found this activity you loved. You loved being able to think. You loved the community. You just loved it. Then what happened?
I guess it was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. You know, when you age and probably when you're a runner, you find out that you might have to adapt because your body just is wearing out. So I have a couple of discs in my back, and I was told it's probably not the best thing for me to continue doing that, or they're going to deteriorate further. So then I had to decide, okay, now how am I going to adapt? I can't do the thing that I loved anymore, but how can I get that same feeling that I used to have when I was running? What can I do now?
I can't do that thing I loved anymore. But what can I do now? That sounds like a huge phrase to me.
It is a huge phrase. And I think it likens back to, there's just, this thought just came up for me. I think I saw my dad have to do that as his Parkinson's progressed. The neurologist that we worked with was very good about saying, okay, well, you got to find something else that you enjoy doing to replace the things that you can't do anymore. So let's explore what it is that you enjoy doing. So we bought a RV and he wasn't working. And so we went out camping, and he loved that feeling that it gave him, being in nature, kind of toying around with the RV because he had a very mechanical mind as an aircraft mechanic. So it was that. And then we put on an addition to the garage so that he had a shop to work in. And he had a wood lathe in there. So he got into woodworking. He could still do that with his hands and working on machinery and engines in his workshop. So, those were all good examples of adaptation. When you can't do something anymore, what can you do that brings you joy and increases your energy level?
So almost like the adapted dream, the adapted dream.
Right. Yeah.
So you realized that running was no longer in the best interest of your body. So what's your new dream in terms of movement?
Now it's strength training and walking. I love to walk. I feel like Forrest Gump. I can walk and walk. And my newest dream is I'm going to be walking in September, 175 miles on the El Camino in Portugal, from the southern coast of Portugal to the north into Spain.
Wow.
Yeah. That one's been on my dream list, though, for 3 years.
So
it's not something.
Were any of your road races out of the country?
No.
So suddenly you've had to adapt, but this new dream's leading you across the ocean.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Let me tell you, Jason, I put that dream on. I have a list of 100 dreams, or a journal that I keep.
You say you have a list of 100 dreams that you keep.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I ask my clients to do the same. They get a dream journal when I work with them. And I encourage them to just keep adding to that list. So mine is probably about 160 by now, I'm guessing. But 3 years ago, I put that dream on my list to walk the El Camino in Portugal, not necessarily Portugal, but I put it on my list. And, it's amazing. Just by writing things down, your dreams are 47% more likely to come to fruition. And I didn't really do anything about that dream. And one day, my cousin called up out of the clear blue and she said, I've been thinking about walking the El Camino. Would you like to go with me? I'm like,
Oh, yeah, the clear blue. What? That's
yeah,
amazing.
it is. And I think when you put things out there, whether I think it's important to write them down because it sends a signal to your brain that, you're serious about this when you write it down. And when you put something like that out there and it's something that you really have a deep desire to do, and I did, I thought, well, that would be cool. I think the universe comes to your aid. And I'm not going to say things always happen that way. If you want $1 million, it's not going to just drop out of the sky. But I really didn't do much work on this. I just wrote it down and thought about it.
There's two dimensions of this. So to have a dream, we need to know it's something we need to know about it. Like, how did you even hear about the El Camino first?
I was reading a book, and someone else was talking about walking it, and now I'm into this walking thing, of course. So I thought about, walking the Appalachian Trail. I thought about, well, that would be cool. And then the Pacific Crest Trail. I thought, well, that would be cool. And then I read about this El Camino. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. And it's in a different country. That would be even more interesting.
So maybe it sounds like start to pay attention when we go through our days, reading things, watching things, in conversation. Start paying attention to when our ears perk up and we go, that's interesting.
Yeah. And if you feel something inside of you, it trips a trigger or kind of lights a fire, write it down because you're going to forget about it. Most likely. I do with companies, I'll go in and do a dream storm or with groups of people, I particularly, and I do it individually with clients too, but it's really fun with a group of people. I just throw out questions in 12 categories of dreams. Like I'll have a question around adventure. I'll have a question around maybe travel, a question around, a relationship in your life, different questions. And I'll just throw them out and tell people, okay, we're going to just take the next 30 minutes and we're going to dream and imagine with no limitations like we used to when we were children, because I think we lose that. And then I'll ask people to share those dreams with each other. And it gives other people ideas. And sometimes two people will have the same dream and they'll get together and help each other come up with some action steps to move forward with it. So it's kind of cool that way.
Wow. So that brings up the idea of dreaming in community. When we dream, it's not just for Jason, it's not just for Carol. It affects other people.
Absolutely. Just try going in when you're, I don't know, you go out to a restaurant or you go shopping. This feels uncomfortable at first. But let's say somebody's waiting on you and you find a way. Oftentimes I'll just find a way to ask them, so how long have you worked here? And I'll just kind of start a conversation. And I'm waiting for a moment when I can interject the question, so what's your dream? Do you have a dream beyond this? And they will stop and look at me, because people don't typically ask other people that, but it builds an instant connection. I would say with most people. Some people may be a little bit like, whoa, because I'm not used to people asking me that. But by and large, people appreciate it. when they get a chance to dream and to share their dreams with each other. Because no one ever really asks us that as adults.
It's amazing. I mean, that's a good point. Like, I don't know. I don't think I've ever asked that. I mean, I love asking questions, and it's just such a basic question. What's your dream?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you now. What's your dream, Jason?
So I used to not want to dream big because I didn't want the feeling of dreaming big and then disappointing myself. But through this podcast and through our conversation and other things, I realize that big dreams are kind of the pathway to what we most want. So my big dream has been for years to speak to millions and millions of people in different places around the United States and in different countries. And then I would add to it, I want to I have a lot more books. I have drafts of books. I have one book out and I want to publish so many more. And then I awkwardly awesome podcast just seems to be growing organically, and I'm excited for it to 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 become nationally and internationally known. Thank you, Carol. I never said those exact combination of words before. Thank you.
Let
It
me
was
ask.
really good.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that. Let me ask you, where did your energy level go when you heard yourself saying that?
Oh, it definitely went up. Yeah,
Did
no
it
doubt
soar?
about it. So partly do you think people feel exhausted and not? I mean, there's so many reasons why we feel we don't have energy sometimes, but do you think as part of it? Is part of it just simply not allowing ourselves to dream?
I think the dreaming part is important because it puts hope in front of us. You know, when you have a dream that you're working towards, you have a hope for the future, right? Whether that's something you want to achieve in the next 6 months, next 9 months, next 12 months, you've got a vision. So I think that piece is important. But I think another piece also is, and something I work up with people a lot, is understanding yourself. And there's that self-awareness piece, understanding yourself and how you're wired. You know, how did God wire your personality so that you're not, and you're honoring that. You come to honor that so that you're not always trying to be something that you're not. You're not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You're leveraging who you are and your strengths and your abilities, and you're listening to the deepest desires of your heart. So I think there's that piece. And then there's that third piece of working on understanding what makes me show up, what helps me show up as my best version every day, so that I can go after the hope that I have for my future. What helps me be my best version every day? What are those habits I need to kind of get into a rhythm about? You know, how much sleep do I need? How do I need to eat? How do I need to be moving? What are my relationships like? How is my emotional life, spiritual? What does that look like? And so I believe there are kind of three pieces. dreams, again, provide us with hope. And then there's kind of mastering the basics on a daily basis, physical, the emotional, the intellectual, spiritual, financial. And then just really that real deep understanding of who am I? And honoring that. Here's the way I'm wired. These are my values. This is my personality. These are my passions. Because when you start to understand that, you can work with it. And there's joy in that. You stop comparing.
When you start to understand that, you say you can work with it, and there's joy in that. That's so exciting.
You stop comparing yourself to other people too.
What would you say to someone who's like, Carol, I don't want to dream big because I don't want to be disappointed if I don't achieve my dreams. I don't want to the feeling of disappointing myself.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd probably have a conversation with them about, tell me, let's talk more about that. What about that disappointment? What's the worst that could happen? What's the best that could happen? And is there perhaps somewhere else that we need to be starting then? Do we need to be starting with those essential purpose pieces just to give you a little bit more confidence, emotionally? Do we need to kind of build that up a little bit first? What's a baby step? So I work with people for 12 months at a time, and sometimes even into the second and the third year, and I meet with them once a month. So this is not a one and done kind of thing. It is a journey.
If people want to contact you and learn more, how do they do that?
They can find me on LinkedIn and just send me a DM on LinkedIn, and I can include that link for you. I'm working on a website right now, which should be up and going by the end of May also. They could email me directly if they want to.
So I use just Carol Spader on LinkedIn. Just they search Carol Spader. Mm-hmm. And then how do they email you? What email?
It's Carol at wellnesswisdom.works.com.
Wellness Wisdom That Works. That's a great name.
It's long.
That's a great.
I might have to think about changing that at some point, but for now.
So yeah, so this is your email, eh?
That is correct.
So I ask all my guests this. I talk about the power of doing our imperfect best. The power of doing our imperfect best. And what that means to me is I envision the best I want for myself and to contribute to those around me. Then I go for it. Then when mistakes, obstacles, frustration, what have you come up, instead of using all that as a reason to quit, I try to learn from all that and have it inspire me to keep going forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Carol Spader?
I think it means just trying to be 1% better every day. And that is not always perfect. If I can accomplish, one thing, maybe it's working out in the morning. when I go to sleep at night, I have a strategy I like to use that really kind of brings me down. And it's, okay, what are 3 things that went well today? Just 3 things. It's amazing how that just kind of calms me down, because I can be, again, as a little bit more of an overachiever, always feeling I have to drive myself. It helps me get perspective. Like, I can get critical with myself at the end of the day. Like, you didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do this. And the 3 things are sometimes so simple. And it helps me kind of frame things up. Like, well, you went to the gym, you met with a client, and they seemed to get value from that. You started your day by journaling. Those are things that help you become your best version. Don't minimize them. It doesn't have to be perfect.
This is great, Carol. Thanks so much for all you're doing and for sharing not only wellness wisdom, but really wisdom for how we can bring out how we can invite ourselves to be our best and challenge ourselves a little each day to take baby steps and go towards those big dreams that sing in our hearts if we listen. Thank you. And this is important. Please, I'm going to say a few things and end the recording, but please stay on for just a few minutes afterwards. Just some things need to wrap up. But and everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Isn't Carol amazing? I know she gave me a lot to think about. I hope she gave you a lot to think about and journal about and write down and take baby steps towards. Tune in for another episode next week with either a guest or multiple guests. And please comment if you want. We love comments, and thanks for being you. You are the best.